Howdy, everyone. It is so great to meet all of you. I am so excited to be able to present for our very first chapter leaders calls. We're very excited to have you here for our first call in our series of chapter leadership calls. And these will be occurring every third Wednesday of each month. And this first call, as you can see, is all about fundraising. Again, like Bailey said, my name is Sarah McDonald. I am the Texas Community Manager, and I have shoulder length brown hair. I have blue eyes, and today I'm currently wearing a turtleneck sweater because although it's in Texas, it is cold. I'm not sure where anyone else is on this call, but we're a crisp 22 degrees, which is very cold for Texas, and it has already shut the state down in a lot of places. But I wanted to say, before we begin, thank you all so much for the incredible work you are doing. As chapter leaders, you are the heart of our community. You're not just volunteering your time, you are truly the driving force behind all of the success of our mission. So truly thank you from all of us. Today, we're going to be covering all things fundraising, whether it's how to feel confident asking for donations, strategies that work, and different fundraising opportunities that are available to you. But first and foremost, for those of you who may or may not have used Zoom, I just want to go over some Zoom accessibility features. If you are using a screen reader, you can navigate the toolbar by using the tab key and mute or unmute yourself with Alt-A if you're using Windows, or Command-Shift-A if you're using Mac. If you'd like to raise your hand to ask a question, you can press Alt-Y if you're using Windows, or Option-Y if you're using Mac. And if at any point you need assistance, just feel free to let us know. We will end this with a Q&A, so save those questions that I know and I hope you'll have at the end. But ultimately with that, let's get started. Okay, let me go back to my PowerPoint. Sorry, y'all. There we go. Okay, so first slide that we have is all about you specifically in this fundraising discussion as leaders and how it impacts you. You set the tone for your chapter's fundraising success. The energy you bring, the enthusiasm you share, and the way that you are engaging your community all shape how everyone shows up and participates. If you show excitement and belief in what we're doing, others will follow. If you stay consistent, others will stay engaged. Fundraising success isn't just about how much we raise, it's truly about how we inspire others to take action with us. But as leaders in the community, especially as volunteer leaders, I completely understand how hard it is to make additional time and effort to fundraise, especially if this is something new to you. But your role specifically is not to be doing all fundraising alone. A great leader motivates and delegates and inspires their community, so not all of that work feels like it has to fall on your shoulders. So that means every email you send, every conversation you have, every person you invite to be part of the mission makes a difference. So, and I will be inviting everyone to share back as leaders on what's one thing from today's presentation that you feel very excited or even confident about implementing. So just keep that in mind. That will be a question at the end, and I really encourage everyone to participate, or some of you to participate in that as well. Okay, so moving on next. This next slide is all about the qualities of a great fundraiser. And you may be thinking to yourself, you know, that's great and all. I know what it's like to be a leader in fundraising, but what can really truly make me a fundraising leader? And with that, it's not about how much money you can ask for or how big your network is. It's about the qualities that you bring to the table. And I pulled a list of 10 qualities that I feel really sets great fundraisers apart. So let's start with the first one, integrity. Fundraising is built on trust. When people donate, they are trusting you to be a good steward of their generosity. With that, always be honest, be transparent, and lead with integrity in every ask you make. Next is listening skills. Great fundraisers listen more than they talk. And I am a talker. It is very hard. That is actually one of my skills that I am very vulnerable about, it being one of my less strengths, but I'm continually trying to work on it. So even if you feel like none of these resonate with you, or some of them do and some of them are a little bit harder, we're going to go into a little bit about growth plans for specific qualities later on. With listening, understanding what matters to your donors and community helps you connect with them in meaningful ways. So, and when you truly listen, you find out what they might want to give and what makes your ask more powerful. So make sure when you are coming to your ask, come with questions that you can ask them. Focus on building that relationship first. Next, they're really great motivators, whether it's rallying your team or motivating your community or encouraging donors. It's all about sparking that excitement and purpose that will drive your fundraising success. Great fundraisers are also very hard workers because it really takes a lot of persistence and follow-ups and creative problem solving in fundraising. And they know that success does not happen overnight. They put in time and effort and they make things happen. With that being said, though, your time is very valuable because you're volunteering your time. You have lives outside of this amazing dedication you put into FFB. Burnout for passionate people is a very real concept, and it's critical for your fundraising longevity to set sustainable and practical goals for the time and effort you've mapped out for yourself. So if you do need some help with time management and how to incorporate all the things that you're doing with FFB and all the things that you want to do with FFB into your own personal life, whether you're working or you have other organizations you're volunteering your time for, myself or your community managers would be more than happy to help with that. Next one is very common for us philanthropic folks, but having empathy is truly at the heart of fundraising. You obviously care about the blind and low vision community, or else you wouldn't be here. But also caring about the individuals that you're making asks to is a critical piece of this puzzle. You want to come into any table first and foremost with that excitement and intentional about making that connection with that individual, with also the intention of staying hopeful and determined about what will happen when you have that connection. Next is all about those high expectations of yourself in your fundraising journey. A great fundraiser sets really big goals and believes they can reach them. If you set high expectations for yourself and your team, you'll be able to push beyond what you thought was possible. Aim high, and I promise you others will follow. We call this at FFB the moonshot idea, which is basically a plan to do something that almost seems impossible. With that comes all the passion and all the energy that you're going to be bringing. And it's contagious. If you deeply believe in your mission, others will too. Fundraising events, team meetings, donor conversation, they all need your passion and energy. Now, at the end of the day, things will happen, and it takes a great fundraiser to also become resilient. You will hear no in fundraising, and that's okay. The best fundraisers do not give up. They keep going. A no today could be a yes tomorrow. So stay resilient, stay positive, and keep being present. So with all of these 10, I just want to just have a moment for yourself for a second. Take a moment out of all these 10 that I've shared. And if you are able to look at the slide, think about your strongest quality on this list. Just take a moment, look through it, feel it in your heart. Now take a moment to think about the quality you're really hoping to strengthen. Following today, I really want you to make it a priority to sit down with yourself and figure out your growth plan for that quality and that you're hoping to strengthen. And also on top of that, how you can make your strongest quality your ultimate superpower. Like I was saying, I think the quality that I'm continuing working on strengthening is my listening skills. But my strongest quality is my empathy. And with those, I can work towards a great growth plan. I know at my core, I'm really good at wanting to understand people and really know somebody who, for their heart and what they are, what they truly care about. And with that comes a better understanding of listening skills. So I know coming into every meeting, I have a set list of questions I want to ask them to make sure I can take a step back, listen, but also get that empathy building, making sure I'm really understanding who that person is at their core and what their desires are. So take some time to yourself and think about that. But with that being said, we're going to be moving on. I've created the 5 C's of fundraising, and this is just to make things very simple for yourself moving forward to make actionable steps in your fundraising journey. These 5 C's are clarity, confidence, connection, creativity, and consistency. I promise, if you lead with these 5 C's, you will find that fundraising becomes not just more effective, but definitely more fulfilling. I'll start with the very first one, clarity. It all starts with clarity. This is actually my favorite one, I promise. Before you can inspire others, you have to be clear on why this matters to you. Your why is what drives you, and it keeps you going, and it makes your fundraising authentic. So if somebody asks you right now, right here in this Zoom call, why are you fundraising? Could you answer in one sentence? Is it your personal vision loss journey? Is it a loved one experience? Is it just an overall passion for the cause? When you truly know your why, it becomes much easier to communicate that fundraising ask. There is a fantastic book by Simon Sinek, I think that's how you pronounce his last name, that's called Start With Your Why, which I genuinely recommend everybody listen to or read at some point in their journey. But I want this to be an opportunity for you to think about why you are here and why you are dedicating your time at Foundation Fighting Blindness. Next on the C's comes confidence. A lot of people do hesitate about fundraising. Some people think it's very uncomfortable. It's that fear of rejection when asking for money. There's a lot of money trauma with a lot of individuals, and it can be an uncomfortable thing if you've never done it before. However, fundraising in this area is not about selling something. It's about inviting people to be a part of something that matters. And if you believe in what you're fundraising for, the confidence will come. That doesn't mean you're never going to be nervous. I'm nervous even speaking right now. I'm nervous when I go into meetings. I'm nervous when I send an email, making sure everything looks exactly the way it needs to. But it means, but at the end of the day, you are trusting yourself with that you are doing what you're doing and it's worth asking for. It all starts with how you see yourself. And if you see yourself as a leader in this cause, others will too. Now, oh, let me go back. Whoopsie. I think I went a little too far, y'all. Let me go back on this. Boop. Uh-oh. Let me stop this. Sorry, y'all. I'm going to stop this share and try again. Sorry about that. There we go. My apologies. My screen was acting up. Okay, let me go back. So An additional tool that will help make you more confident in your ask is really increasing your knowledge of the organization you're trying to fundraise for, which in this case is Foundation Fighting Blindness. It is truly a mental investment. So make sure you take the time to read up on Foundation Fighting Blindness. Make sure you're reading the emails that we're sending you. Learn those key impact stats. But most importantly, connect with the stories of those affected. We have some really great beacon stories for you also to listen to as well, or listen to people in your communities and really understand the stories that you're hearing. Here are some of the most impactful pieces of information on Foundation Fighting Blindness. Our signature programs and initiatives include, like all of you are a part of, our 45 nationwide volunteer chapters that raise funds, increase public awareness, and provide community support. Our clinical consortium with over 40 global clinical centers. Our RD fund, which is our retinal degenerative fund, which is our venture philanthropy fund that helps with driving emerging therapies toward or in clinical trials. It's a great investment that we have. We also have the MyRetina Tracker Registry and no-cost genetic testing program that we currently have over 24,000 profiles on. We also have all of our research grants and awards that support clinical and preclinical studies for retinal degenerative diseases. I believe we have, let me see, we have over 104 currently for this year. Advocacy through biobonds and government partnerships to fund biomedical research, educational conferences, seminars, and workshops, which also includes our biannual Visions Conference, which is coming up next year, and other different grassroots events, which we'll be going into. Now, I want to make sure that you guys are leaning on your community managers and additional FFB staff on your fundraising journey with this. Any questions you have regarding resources, information, and tools that would be helpful in your fundraising conversations, we've got you covered, and we would be happy to provide you with. Now, for this next slide, it's all about preparing in practice. And I know we've all heard the saying, practice makes perfect, but there's nothing I dislike more personally than an unachievable word like perfection. So I want to change it up a bit. Our new mantra is practice makes progress. And the more you practice sharing your story, the easier it becomes. And these conversations about fundraising really do not need to feel awkward or scripted. They really should feel natural, like any conversation you have with a friend. But to get to that level, you really do need to prepare for those conversations. First and foremost, know your facts, just like we shared in the previous slide. When you understand where the funds are going and how they make an impact and why all this matters, you won't feel like you are pitching something. You'll just be sharing something that you believe in. Second, make sure you have a go-to script or some key talking points. And again, lean on your community managers if you need help with that. If somebody asks, hey, what are you fundraising for? You don't want to fumble through an answer. You should have that short, confident, and compelling response ready to go in the back of your pocket. Think of it like an elevator pitch, something that you can say in 10 to 30 seconds that really sums up why this matters and why somebody should care. I think the majority of it should be simple, very personal, and very direct. If it helps, you can always write it down and memorize a couple of key phrases that feel natural to you. But it also really helps to practice saying it out loud. I'm constantly talking to myself in the mirror or in the car, making sure that I'm saying things that I would be saying to my potential donors. It sounds simple, but when you hear yourself saying it even just once, it really does make it easier to repeat when you're talking to others. It's that muscle memory. And you don't really need to rehearse like you are speaking a TED Talk, but saying your message out loud a few times will really help boost that confidence that we talked about previously. And finally, and I think this is my favorite part, even though it makes me sound crazy sometimes, I like role playing the conversation. It can really help in things when you are feeling, those qualities we were talking about, some qualities that you feel less confident in. I had a recent constituent that really leaned into apologizing or downplaying their request. They would say sometimes, I hate to ask, but, or I totally understand if you can't, but maybe if you would consider. And I was helping them coach through it and saying, let's practice making a direct and confident ask, saying things like, I'd love for you to support this mission. Would you be willing to donate? And when you own that ask, it makes it much easier for others to say yes. And with confidence comes connection, which is our next slide, our next C. Like I've mentioned in previous qualities, I'll say this time and time again, people do not give to strangers. They give to people they trust. It's not just about the ask, it's about that relationship that you are building. It takes time to connect with your donors. So make sure you have those conversations. You can talk about the weather. You can talk about their kiddo who's in the soccer league. Make sure you, in the conversations, share why this mission is important to you. Find out what they care about, what other things that they're working on. When people feel emotionally invested, that giving process feels very natural. It is not a transactional process. And at the end of the day, it's not about convincing somebody to donate. You are inviting them to share this mission with you and with others. Maybe this can be a good opportunity for you to send a thank you and an update on all the things that are going on with FFB before sending a fundraising email ask. Or maybe when you're asking for donations, use more personalized messaging rather than just mass emails. Now begs the question, who on earth am I connecting with? And on this slide, there is an image of an eye with 3 different sections from pupil to iris to sclera. And we call this in FFB the eye of influence. And if you've been around long enough, you've probably seen this before on numerous amounts of slides. But in the pupil, we have you. And then moving out to the iris, we have people closest to you, including your family, your neighbors, your friends, employers. And then the next layer includes places in your everyday life that you engage with, including, let's say, hair salons, places of worship, doctors, childcare facilities, schools, civic groups, and even your dry cleaner. Now, this obviously doesn't cover everybody in your specific eye of influence, but this gives you a great start to the outreach that makes most sense and easiest for you personally to navigate. So, for example, let's say you have a really good friend and they work for a really great company that offers matching donations. We love that. Although you personally do not work for that company, you can engage your friend in walking with you and fundraising, let's say in your vision walk, which we'll get to soon. And they could get a corporate matching donation that would add to the overall team fundraising goal. Your friend's why in that case would be how much they care about your why. And that's just as impactful. And that is where creativity comes in, which is our next C. There is no one-size-fits-all approach to fundraising. And it really should be an enjoyable experience for you as well, as you are the one taking your time out of your day to do it. So make sure you're fundraising in your own way that feels very natural and comfortable to you. So some people are really great at talking. Some people are amazing at writing. Some people are really great at organizing events, and others really love using social media. The best fundraisers just make it work for them. So if you do, let's say, love public speaking, you could host a small gathering or even share at a community event. I know one of our Texas presidents loves to go to local libraries and host specific topics of interest, and really engages the community as well. If you love social media, if you're a social media guru, you could go live on whatever social media platform of your choosing and tell your story in a video. If you enjoy writing, you could send personal emails or handwritten letters to potential donors for a letter campaign. There was this couple who met people all around the world on cruises, and the only thing that they did was a letter campaign for all of the people that they met along the way. And they ended up raising, I think in 1 year, I believe it was $80,000 just for writing letters. So it really is completely whatever you are comfortable with and what you succeed at. Now, when it comes to fundraising, specifically for the Foundation Fighting Blindness, we have several exciting and meaningful ways for people to get involved. Whether somebody is looking to do a walk, host their own event, or attending an evening of impact, we have an opportunity for everyone. So I wanted to just quickly dive in on the 3 major fundraising initiatives that we have, which include Vision Walk, our DIY Raising Our Sites program, and our signature events. Vision Walk, which I know you're probably familiar with, is our largest grassroots fundraising initiative. It's a day where families and friends and community members come together to raise awareness and funds for blinding diseases. These teams rally their networks and fundraise within the weeks leading up to the walk, and then celebrate together on walk day. It really is an amazing energy. This will be my first year that I am able to go to a Vision Walk. We actually have one on March 8th in Texas. And since 2006, Vision Walk specifically has raised over $65 million, which is amazing. And it's free to join. Everyone is welcome. So if you haven't already, this is a quick Vision Walk plug. Make sure you visit www.visionwalk.org to sign up in your city for a team. You're a leader. You got to have a team. You can either create a team, join a team, or you can sign up as an individual. That is perfectly fine, but make sure you pick a fun team name if you are a team captain, and set a goal that feels right for you. Remember, we talked about setting realistic, practical goals for yourself to achieve. And make sure to invite your friends, your family, your coworkers, your eye of influence. The more, the better. You can find more information on creative ways to fundraise, specifically on your Vision Walk page for your city. And I believe it's under the PDF called Vision Walk Fundraiser Toolkit. So a little bit more information there. Now, if you really want to take fundraising in your own hands and you're like, okay, Sarah, I'm feeling confident about fundraising, then we have this amazing program called our Raising Our Sites DIY. And this program is all about creativity. It allows individuals to design their own fundraising events that align with their own personal interests and talents. So maybe you want to host a trivia night, or put together a bake sale, or run a marathon in support of the foundation. Raising Our Sites, it makes the possibilities endless on what you want to do. And with more information, we have if you're able to, there's a QR code on this specific slide if you wanted to go to the DIY fundraising page. But if you are not able to access the QR code, the website is www.fightingblindness.org/raising-our-sites. And finally, we have our signature events. They are premier fundraising galas, bringing together supporters and researchers and members of the vision loss community to celebrate progress and raise critical funds. These events are often held in major cities, and traditionally, all of our events kind of fall into 4 categories, whether it's our galas, which is our night for sight, tastings, which is our taste for sight, golf events, which is our scramble for sight, and other formats kind of falling within the category of celebration for sight. This year specifically, though, which is really awesome, we're debuting a new type of event that will have a sports theme with a focus on accessibility and both traditional and adaptive sports. And we're debuting this in 2 markets, Charlotte and St. Louis. So I'm not sure if anybody is on those calls from those regions, but we'll expand further next fiscal year. But that's on our signature events. We have some really great team members to go over that a little bit more after this presentation. Now, I know this took a long time, and my apologies, but the final C, the 5th C in fundraising is consistency. Most donations do not come from the first ask, and people need reminders. They get busy, we're all busy, and they forget, or they just need a little time to think about it. There's a lot of different factors that makes an ask turn into a yes. But that's why follow-up is so magical. If someone says no today, it does not mean no forever. It just means not right now. Or maybe there might be another avenue for you to get to that yes. All of that being to say, it's about keeping them engaged throughout the process and sharing updates and expressing gratitude for their time and interest. The best fundraisers understand that success just comes up from showing up consistently. And just like your friends and family, you don't just reach out when you need something, right? Make sure you're keeping up with them throughout the year. Did they mention that they have a child in that soccer tournament? Okay, did they win last week against the Tigers? What was the score? Did they recently lose a family member? Offering your condolences, sending a love and support to them. Maybe they just got back from a trip. Ask to see those pictures, get the cool spots for reference to go for yourself. So some tangible strategies for consistency would be making sure you're putting in a plan for follow-up schedule and change your messaging each time. You can share new updates, a new story, a new opportunity coming up. At the end of the day, fundraising is not just about what you ask for. It's about how you're showing up in the process. When you lead with these 5 C's, which are clarity, confidence, connection, creativity, and consistency, I promise you, you won't just raise money, you will create a whole movement. I want to take a quick moment to consolidate all of this learning into a few lasting key takeaways for all of you. That if you got anything from this, I hope you did, that I hope you can keep in your back pocket whenever you need it. Number 1 on this slide, your leadership sets the tone. As a chapter leader, you are more than just a fundraiser. You are a motivator. You are a delegator. You are an advocate. Your energy and your commitment and your enthusiasm directly impacts your chapter success. Number 2, fundraising is built on connection. People give to passion. Build that trust. Engage your network and lead with your why when you're making that ask. Number 3, find a fundraising approach that works for you, whether you are that great speaker or writer, social media pro, community connector. There's a way to fundraise that fits your personal strength. It is not a one-size-fits-all bucket that we will just put you in. You got to figure out what you're good at, and we will help grow you from there. Number 4, consistency is key. Most donations do not come from one single ask. Fundraising is about building those long-term relationships, following up, and keeping your supporters engaged over time. And lastly, number 5, make fundraising fun. Fundraising, I suppose, and step outside of your comfort zone. The best fundraisers challenge themselves and try something new. Fundraising, it should feel exciting, not stressful. So take this time to be creative with what your ideas look like. Celebrate those wins for yourself and really enjoy the process. Now, before we wrap up, this is our last slide before our Q&A. I did mention at the beginning that I'll be asking you at the end, what is one thing from today's presentation that you feel excited or confident about implementing? So I do want to open this up as an opportunity to share, to get ideas, and ultimately learn from other chapter leaders across the country. We have everybody on here from all of our 45 chapters, which is so exciting. So feel free, just for right now, take a moment to reflect. And if you have something, raise your virtual hand, and briefly share back on what resonated with you the most, or what made you just really have a big think, and got you most excited to act in your fundraising efforts. Okay, I see Mr. Dan Day. You have your virtual hand up. Would you like to share about your big think or anything you have for takeaways?
Sure. Thank you, Sarah. It's a great presentation. You've certainly covered a lot of things, and it's hard to pick one thing or two things out of there even. But one thing that crossed my mind for sure was, and it really relates to two of the C's, I think, which is the connection and consistency, which almost belongs in, it all kind of goes together to me in a category of another C that we call cultivation. It's cultivating relationships. You did hit on that several times through your presentation, that asking for donations for a mission like ours is not as nearly as much a sales challenge as it is a building of relationships. And you touched on that very well. And what I was going to say in relation, why it really resonated with me is because I have found that a couple of things that I have found pretty effective in helping your success rate is to, for one thing, find out everything you can, not only about the foundation, so that you can talk intelligently about our mission and where we are and how many trials are going on and the services we can offer, like my retina tracker and everything. But find out as much as you can about the person, the prospect that you want to talk to. Find out what condition they have. What is their connection and relationship to retinal disease? Because it is, as you mentioned, empathy, being able to commiserate in a way with that person and let them know that you're sincere, that you're involved with this mission because you're affected in somehow too. And to that end, if you can, one of the things you might be able to do is, if you can find someone in your chapter or someone that you work closely with who maybe has the same condition. Let's say it's Stargardt and you don't have Stargardt, but you know this prospective donor does. Maybe there's another leader on your chapter who would be better to call that person because they can really empathize at a different level. Maybe they're at a different stage with their vision loss. Maybe it's similar to that person. If you can do that, you can sometimes have a better success rate because those people will connect better. Or maybe it's a case where you might just ask that person who if you can find a person who knows the donor, has some connection with them, that can make the conversation much easier to start rather than you doing it as a kind of cold call. Have that person introduce you, or maybe call the person ahead of time, maybe not make the ask for it, but maybe tell that person, excuse me, tell that person, hey, so-and-so is going to be giving you a call. They're with the foundation. They're a really good person. Talk to them because I hope you'll talk to them because they're really, really a great person to work with. So using those kinds of connections to cultivate those relationships is so important. And it's important to keep cultivating, as you pointed out, afterwards. When the event is over with, the thing that I think we're looking at data right now, we, the foundation, are looking at data that shows something quite frankly shocking to me, and that is that first-time donors, out of the first-time donors we have for the foundation, only about 10% donate a second time. And while we don't expect 100%, we wish we could get that, 10% just doesn't seem acceptable. So we clearly need to figure out a better strategy for how, when we get someone to donate, how do we cultivate that relationship so that they want to stay connected with our mission? So anyway, I've probably talked enough, but that's sort of my 2 cents for now anyway.
Dan, this is Sarah McDonald. I really appreciate you sharing that. And just, an overall kind of summary of what you said was that leverage the connections that we have. And it's more than just us making the ask. It's seeing who else in our community could be a really great cultivation of this specific donor that we could we could leverage. I really like that you made a point that we need to be following up with these people who are making these first-time donations. It's about the longevity of their giving, and there's a reason why they gave the first time. How can we continue that impact? So I appreciate that. Thank you so much for sharing. Did anybody else have any other key takeaways or anything that just made them think? And even if it's not a key takeaway, it could be a question. I'm gonna open up the floor to also any questions that anybody had regarding this fundraising training. Feel free to raise your virtual hand, or you can, since we do have a pretty small group, you can just share out loud as well.
This is Dan again. I'll just toss in one more thing as an idea I thought of the other day that might be something. I don't know the mechanics of how we could do this, but I know we, the foundation, we maintain a database of donors. I know we do, and that might be the one they call Virtuous. But regardless of that, the database has a lot of interesting information about the donor, what their condition is, whatever we can collect about them. And maybe one of the pieces of information that could really enhance that, either we could do it maybe at a local chapter level, is for any given donor or donor prospect, maybe we could eventually have a person that's sort of noted in a database or noted somewhere as sort of a kind of donor steward, a relationship steward for that donor. It's a person who really knows them, so that when we want to reach out, it isn't just via a kind of standard e-blast or something that they can kind of just dismiss, but maybe it can be an ask that comes from somebody they know that will get some special attention. So I don't know, this idea needs some more. I need to think it through better, but you see where I'm going with it.
Yeah, Dan, this is Sarah. Thank you so much for sharing. Those are really great ideas. And I know that we as chapter levels can continue stewarding these individuals that you are hoping to reach out to. And it's, our job as community managers to help with any information that you need as well. So definitely, thank you so much for sharing that. I'll give a few more. Peter, I believe I saw your hand up. If you want to unmute yourself. Let me see if I can. Peter, I think you are still muted. Bailey, if you wouldn't mind unmuting Peter potentially, Peter Joseph, and seeing if you can help him.
How's this?
Peter, you got it.
Sorry, I was doing a few things on my computer.
Oh,
I
you're
apologize.
fine. You're fine. I love your background. Looks great. It's a beautiful, the bridge. It's beautiful.
Oh, yeah, down at the Golden Gate. I love being out on the West Coast. I'm not on the West Coast now. I'm actually where Dan is. I'm in Orlando. Right now. But to piggyback on fundraising ideals, a lot of times, well, I've been with the chapter right now for about a year and change, more or less, maybe a year and 2 months. I've been with. I have something called optic neuropathy, which may not be as serious as Stargardt's or RP, but it did cause a blurriness, if you will, in my left eye. I had it in my right eye, but it was not as severe. But that being said, it brought me to have greater empathy, if you will, for ocular diseases and people who have any type of retinal issues, because it struck me personally. So what I began doing is I began to try to generate as much knowledge as I can through Dan. Dan is a wonderful wealth of knowledge. I'm going to have to give him a shout out right now. And he has sent me a plethora of emails and etc. to garner more knowledge. So what I do is, when I reach out personally to people, I try to not only educate them, but to try to have them garner sympathy for something like, let's say, have sympathy for what you take for granted. And what I mean by that is, imagine your world, your visual world, reversed. And everything that you find as being easy, driving, cooking, walking around your house, that you've been doing for your entire life, simply without even thinking about it. Think about the people who have issues, retinal issues, ocular issues, that the simplest of things that you take for granted for is a task for some of them. And everything that we are doing right now is bringing to light a way to help others, scientifically, fundraising, just bringing more people into the equation, because the greater the voices, the more we can get done. So back to your thing, I like to talk a lot. So if you want to tell me to shut up at any time, go right ahead. It's quite all right. I do not mind. But it's the more vocal, I believe, that we are, whether it's local, whether it's out in Washington, D.C., no matter where it may be. But we need to be vocal in regard to what is happening right now. And I'm not saying, do not get me wrong, I'm not saying that we are not being vocal, but sometimes I think the same way you have some of these blowhards out on Capitol Hill, I think the way to get to people sometimes is by being more mainstream. And when I say more mainstream is we need to hit it at the level where people are going to listen, people are going to see, and people are going to really react. I'm even thinking about doing a YouTube channel right now, with regard to bringing certain things to light. I would mix things up, but the gist of it will be to bring to light what is going on right now. I have ideas for hats and shirts and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that will, again, be more geared towards FFB. But I think the vocal mobilization right now is what surely needs to be done. Again, I talk a lot, so my apologies.
Peter, this is Sarah. You are perfectly fine. This is a part of the passion. Everybody here, there's a reason why they're here. They want to make sure that they are doing everything they possibly can to get FFB on the map and make sure people know. So I really appreciate you saying that. And honestly, if you want to do a YouTube channel to promote fundraising,
but Sarah, with regard to that, I need to also, are there certain legalities with utilizing FFB logos on something that I'm going to do with the possibility of having it monetized?
That would definitely be a conversation that we would have with our marketing team to just make sure. But Peter, I will get back to you and make sure that we can get that
exchange
information.
emails? I would like to talk to you about that if you don't mind.
Yeah, I can definitely loop you in with myself and people on our team, including my manager, Julie, as well as any other people that we would have. So absolutely, definitely.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Peter, for sharing that. And I think we have time for one last question if anybody has any. If not, I wanted to end this slide with, if you do have any questions, my email is on this slide. It is smcdonald@fightingblindness.org. But you can also please utilize your chapter, your community managers. They are there just like I am there for my Texas chapters in Dallas, Fort Worth, Austin, San Antonio, and Houston. You have your amazing community managers that are there to give you any information you need. That is, we are utilize us as much as possible. But
I plan on utilizing Bailey as much as possible, and I hopefully I will not be talking her ear off. She just might be blocking me one of these days.
Yeah,
I
Peter,
wouldn't do that, Peter.
Bailey is a wealth of knowledge. So Bailey, I'm even going to say, use her as much as possible. She's there. Well, I guess with that being said, I will give you 5 minutes back if you guys don't have any questions. But if you do and you just want to do it offline, feel free to ask me at that email. We will be sharing this recording. I believe Bailey said that after this. So you'll have this as tools for you to use afterwards. But my goodness, thank y'all for being here. I know the weather is crazy right now, and I'm so glad some of y'all have not lost power wherever you're at. but thank you. And I hope that this really resonated with you. And I want to see what you do with this fundraising journey ahead. What has lit you up and what has inspired you with this? With that being said, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to give the floor back over to Bailey if she has any end of housekeeping. But thank you all so much. It was so lovely to virtually be in this space with you. And I'm getting all like teary-eyed because I'm new to the foundation. So this is a really great opportunity for me to meet all of your just meet all of you. So thank you so much and go for it, Bailey.